Hey guys, I'm Zach with Mad Moose Barbecue, and today we're going to go over how to cook a brisket. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is how to select your brisket. When you go to the store and you're looking around for briskets, you want to make sure that you get a full packer brisket, because that's what we're going over today. So that's composed of two parts, the point and the flat. If you go to the store and you find only the flat, that's not what you're really looking for, because that's only the lean part of the brisket, and you want to be able to have the point in there so that you can get all those fat juices coming from both sides. Okay, so on this flat side, which is always going to be the skinnier side, you want to try to find as thick of a piece as you possibly can. That way when you're cooking the brisket as one giant piece, it cooks evenly with the point and they kind of get done at the same time. Alright guys, so we got the brisket out of the package, and then we're going to work on the fat side. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take all of this extra meat off of here. Okay, so on this fat side, what we're looking for is about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch fat. You don't want to have too much, but you also don't want it to be completely bald, because this is the side that's going to protect your meat from the heat. Alright, so we're just going to little by little trim off some of this fat. Now, looking at this brisket, I can tell just by feeling it, and if you can see right here where I cut off that extra meat, there's not a huge fat cap on this side, so I'm only going to trim a very small amount off because I don't want to go too far. It's better to trim not enough than to trim too much, because you can never put the fat back on there. Okay, so we flip the brisket over, and now we're going to talk about how to trim this top side. Now, there's always this big chunk of fat right here. It's called the decal fat. It basically runs deep into the brisket, and it separates the point from the flat. This piece will never render, no matter how slow and how long you cook it. It's never going to be good edible fat. So we're going to just get rid of that completely. So see how you can see that fat is running in there? This one actually doesn't have very much of it, so I'm only going to take it down to there. We're just going to cut off this entire chunk of fat all the way off the side. So we're going to completely expose the meat there. We got all that hard decal fat out. You want to get rid of as much of that as you possibly can, because that's the fat that's no good. This fat on top that's kind of softer, that's going to be okay. That's going to render down. It's going to be tasty. Fat is flavor, so when you're doing it, just remember that. Alright, so the next thing we're going to get to is seasoning. Okay guys, today we're going to keep our seasoning really simple. I just went out and bought a pre-made seasoning. I'm using a Holy Cow by Meat Church. I really like this seasoning because it has a lot of pepper and paprika flavor to it. Sometimes I just mix 50% kosher salt and 50% coarse ground black pepper, but you got to remember, this brisket is a huge chunk of meat, so when we're seasoning it, make sure you be very liberal with it. But first, to make the seasoning stick to the brisket, we're going to hit it with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Some people use mustard. Whatever the binder is that you use, you're not going to taste it, so just use whatever you have on hand. It doesn't have to be extra virgin olive oil. It can be whatever you got in the kitchen. So we got the oil on there, spread it out, and we're just going to put our rub on. Now remember, we want to completely cover every part of the brisket, because being such a big chunk of meat, it can handle having a lot of seasoning on there. Okay, so we don't want to see any of that fat cap. I want to completely cover it all up. Okay, and then we're gonna pat it in. Don't ever rub your brisket like that, or your rubs in like that, because it's gonna smear them and make it all gunk up like that. Okay, we want to make sure that we're going to get all of our sides here. Any exposed meat, want to make sure you get a good amount of rub on there. Alright. Just gonna do the same thing to the other side. Hit it with some olive oil first. Now when you're doing this at home, and just pick a rub that you like, guys. You don't have to use this or the salt and pepper. Go to the store, find a good steak rub, and use whatever you and your family like. It doesn't matter. Okay. Everybody's gonna tell you that, oh, you have to do it with only salt and pepper. That's the way to go. Just use whatever you want. Okay. It's gonna taste good no matter what you use, as long as you like it. Alright guys, we got our brisket trimmed and seasoned. We're going to throw it on the smoker at 250 degrees, okay? We're going to cook it to about an internal temperature of 160, 165 when it hits that stall, and then we're going to wrap it in some butcher paper to finish off the cook. So the reason we put our fat side down specifically on this smoker is because the fire pot is right in the middle and the heat's coming from the bottom. So we want that fat cap to be a barrier for the rest of the meat so it doesn't dry out. Now if you had like a reverse flow or an offset smoker and your heat's coming from the top, then you'd probably want to put the fat side up. Okay, don't put the fat side up just because you've heard that the juices are going to flow down into the meat. That's not true. Okay, you want the fat side to be your protection barrier for your meat. So we're going to cook this to about 160, 165 degrees. When it hits that stall, then we're going to take it out, wrap it, and then we're going to throw it back on and finish it. Okay. Alright guys, we got the brisket off the smoker and threw it on some pink butcher paper. You can use foil if that's all you have at your house, but if you have some butcher paper laying around, it definitely works better. It helps keep that bark when you're cooking it. I found that when you use foil, it tends to almost steam it and you lose that nice crispy crunchy bark. Okay, so all we're gonna do, we're just gonna wrap this up. If you don't know where to find butcher paper, Amazon is where I buy mine. Okay, you want to look for some pink butcher paper. I definitely recommend getting the 24 inch as opposed to the 18 inch so that you don't have to use two sheets to wrap it up. Alright, so we've got it wrapped up there. I'm going to open up the smoker again and throw it back on. Alright guys, so our brisket has been resting in the cooler for a little bit over an hour now. We're going to take it out and we are going to slice it up. Alright. I can already feel when I picked it up that it's got some play to it, so I think it's going to be a good one. See all those juices came off of it while it was in there cooking. See, the nice thing about that butcher paper, guys, is like I was saying, it kept that beautiful bark because it lets it breathe while it's cooking, as opposed to foil. It kind of steams the meat and you're going to lose all that bark in there. So we're going to start on the flat portion, and we want our slices to be about a pencil width thick. And that's just slicing through so easily. I'm not putting hardly any pressure on the knife. Now, don't slice a brisket until you are absolutely ready to serve it, because once you cut those slices, they start to dry out quickly. They'll be juicy while they're hot, but once they start to cool down, they're gonna get tough and they're gonna dry out. Okay, so we're gonna take one from the middle here, and that is just absolutely perfectly done brisket. It should hang over your finger just like that. All right, so this side is the point. Remember, it's the fat side. It's got all that juicy marbling in there. It's gonna be tons of flavor. So we're gonna cut right about here where it starts. And you can just tell my knife just kind of fell right through that. I'm gonna set that off to the side, and that is absolutely perfect. Look at those juices just flowing out of there. That is a perfectly cooked brisket, guys. So these ones we're gonna cut a little bit thicker, just because it is more cooked than our flat. There's a lot of fat inside of here, so it tends to fall apart a little bit easier. But I mean, look at that. That's just absolute perfection. It's just gonna fall apart in your hands. You can shred it, you can chop it. It makes great sandwiches. So what we're gonna do with the brisket, we're gonna take some of our point, take a couple slices of that. We're gonna throw it on the plate here. We're gonna take some of our flat, throw it on there with it. We have some chili beans, coleslaw, spicy pickles, and some Texas toast. And that is the perfect brisket plate, guys. Again, guys, I'm Zach with Mad Moose Barbecue. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification button so you make sure you get all of our videos. Like down below, comment, let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.